Good evening, Maddie. You traveled a long way to see that your brother gets justice. And first of all, I want to say thank you for coming and giving me the opportunity to actually talk to you uh, in person. Uh, there's been a lot of people who thought that, oh, she's not part of their family, or she's just talking, But I want you to tell everybody who you are, please.
I am Marisol Tilson. I am Shali's oldest sister. Um, that was my baby brother. He was everything to our family. Um, and as his oldest sister, you know the saying, I am my brother's keeper. I hold that title very, very seriously. That is my brother, and I am his keeper.
I want to take it back to the very beginning when you learned that your brother had passed in the Rockdale County Jail. Can you tell me what were you doing and how did you find out about this?
Um, Charlie was actually supposed to come stay at my house to go back to school and to handle some business plans that he had set up out in Rhode Island and in New Jersey. And he was due to land on March 8th at 10:50 in the morning. That time had came and went, and I remember calling his phone a few times and then just thinking that maybe he was, maybe he delayed the flight, because at one point he was supposed to come one point he was supposed to come February 28th, and then he extended it. So I thought maybe he extended it again, and when he was ready, he would contact me. I remember specifically every day I would log on to Facebook and I would look at the top of my screen where the green dot would show the person being active.
Right.
And I remember looking for him every day and saying, where's, Shah? March 13th at 6 o'clock in the morning, my alarm went off for me to wake up and to, get my kids ready for school and to get myself ready for work. It was a blizzard in Rhode Island. It was the first blizzard of the year, and it was so bad that it was a state shutdown. So I turned the alarm off and I just went to do, regular things. I got some water. I remember waking up that day with a heavy feeling like on my chest already, and I was just like, I feel weird, I said to my partner. And I looked at my phone and I had a message from my sister Diamond, and she messaged me at 3:53 in the morning and said, call mom, it's an emergency. So I first was like, well, I'm gonna call them later because it's early. But then I was like, she hit me up at 3:53 in the morning, let me see what's going on. I called my mom, and you could hear pain in her voice. And she said, did you hear what happened? And I said, no, what happened? And she said, Shali died. And in that moment, I didn't hear anything else. I couldn't even see. I know I fell off of my bed, which is a really, really high bed. And I just remembered screaming and punching the floor. I was dizzy. I couldn't breathe. I experienced a pain that I never knew. It made me believe that I never knew what pain was until that moment. And I had to put myself together and ask her how. And I said, how? What happened? And she said, well, he was arrested and they found him dead in the jail cell. And they told us at 1:30 in the morning this morning. And again, I screamed. I ran across the house and I immediately said, they killed him. And it was in that moment that I realized we had become the new face of a family that lost a loved one at the hands of the police. And it seemed so surreal. And I remember not being able to really talk to her. I had to go outside on my porch and try to get in as much air as I could because I couldn't breathe. And my partner was just, talking to her, and he was kind of just like saying what he heard, what she was telling him. And then I did my first video at that point. And then after we did that video, I got another phone call from my mother. Had to be about 8:30, I want to say. And again, my mother was screaming. You can hear it. You can hear the fear, the pain, the horror in her voice. It felt like something out of a movie. And she was screaming, Marisol, his lips was bleeding. They was swollen. His jaw was crooked. And I threw the phone, and I didn't hear nothing else. I never heard nothing else of his condition or what he looked like in that photo. I couldn't handle it until her first video that she had did with you at the funeral home. And that was like I heard for the first time all over again that my brother had passed, because for the first time I actually listened to the real detail of that photo and the graphicness of his injuries. The way she explained them was horrifying and disturbing, and I just kept trying to figure out how he ended up in this position.
So, by now, you have heard statements made from the Rockdale County Sheriff, as well as you was provided an autopsy report. And in that report, it's said a number of things. One, that your brother had a blood clot and he died from dehydration. And it also said that there were 6 instances of use of force against your brother. What do you believe today? What do you believe, from what you know, happened to your brother?
I believe he was beaten so severely that he suffered multiple injuries that could have killed him. In my opinion, I'm not satisfied with the cause of death. It is excruciating that that he was dehydrated. That's a problem. It is a problem. I'm not saying that that's not a problem. Dehydration is an excruciating way to die. But I just feel that for there to be so many injuries to the brain, into his head, and for there to be 6 times that he was attacked by these officers, I believe that there was a lot more to his death.
Do you believe he was tortured, Marisol?
He was tortured, and definitely. There's no way that you can look at this case, you can hear the autopsy, you can hear what's inside the autopsy report and say that he wasn't. There's no way to describe how he died other than torture. There was nothing natural about the way that he died. There was nothing comforting about the way that he died, because you know that every step of the way he was suffering, and that's a terrible way for somebody to die. He was tortured. He was tortured. He was tortured. He was tortured by not given the necessities such as fluids, and he was tortured by being constantly abused 6 separate times. Again, this is 6 times that they've used excessive force. That's a lot to a person of his size and stature. He was 5'3", 5'4", and weighed 110 pounds, soaking wet. He was a little tiny thing, and any injury to him could have been, harming. And I don't think that it's talked about enough, the injuries.
Let me ask you a question. Tomorrow there's going to be a protest at 3 p.m. at the Rockdale County Jail. What do you want the community to do to address this issue at hand?
I want them to show up and to support as a family, because this could be anybody's family member. This could happen to anyone. And I want it to be peaceful. We don't want to go and have a war, but we want to be heard. We want to be heard. We want people to help us hold those accountable for what has happened, because we keep hearing about neglect and Nikki Weathersby being in charge of, at the time of when he died. That's alarming. But who were the officers that did the attack into him on set? Why haven't we heard anything about who these officers were, and if there's going to be any type of repercussions for them? Because and this is what we need to speak about. This is what I want the march to be for. I want them to know. I want the community to help us share that there's more to this, and it needs to be brought out, and it needs to be heard, and we need to be heard, because again, there's other people inside this jail underneath these people, and I'm afraid for those that are in there. I'm afraid for future people that's going to go in there. You know what I mean? And
when you heard that Jamie Henry died 2 months later, what thoughts went through your mind?
This could have been preventable. If my brother's death couldn't have been preventable, Jamie Henry's death definitely could have been, had Nikki Weathersby been removed from the position that she was in pending investigation. I feel that anybody who had anything to do with this case, who was in contact with Shali, should have been removed pending investigation, and this woman may have not lost her life due to almost the same things that happened to Shali. She was denied medical attention. The same thing about Shali, because if my brother was really in there for those 9 days, at any point when my mother went up there and asked what was going on with him, and she was told he was okay, had they just let him go home, maybe he could have gotten the medical attention that he needed, and he'd still be here. You know what I mean? I feel for Nikki's family, because in one of my previous videos, I made sure that I said this isn't just a racial thing. There is a lot of black men being killed by police. It's a fact. However, I needed to touch base on that. This was a biracial thing, because I just feel that it's an issue with people who feel like they are in a position to do whatever they want, when they want, and they can get away with it. And that's almost like that's almost the result of Jamie Henry's death. We did what we wanted to do to Shali. We handled it the way we felt it was necessary. He lost his life as a result of that. But it doesn't matter, because that's what we do here. That's almost like what was said. That's what it looks like to my family. And as a result of that, and nobody suffering any consequences or being placed on administrative leave or whatever it was, another woman lost her life underneath the same watch, the same care of somebody who allowed my brother to die. And that's scary, because it really could have been preventable. I honestly, truthfully believe that if somebody removed her and there was somebody else that was in there and they seen her crying for help, because you got to remember, Shali was in with somebody else. He was in with other people, and then he was removed because to them he was being antagonizing, or he was being unruly, or he was acting in a way that they didn't know how to handle. So he was placed somewhere by himself, and as a result of that, he ended up dying. Same thing happened with Jamie Henry.
Lastly, let the world know what Shali meant to you.
Shali meant the world to me. I could see the world in his eyes, literally. And I'm not saying that because he's my brother. I'm saying it because it's the truth. He was inspirational. He was motivating. He was loving. And I knew that he was going to do great things in this world. I knew he was going to help so many people. He was going to be a positive force that this world needed more of. He was going to start a movement to prove to people that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, you are important. And he made sure that anybody he came across, he made sure that in his presence you felt like you was important. And he was so forgiving and so selfless. Like, you could not be in Shali Tilson's presence and not feel so good. You couldn't be in Shali's presence and not laugh. every 20, like every 2 seconds. And because of that, he should, he should be here because the world needs more people like him.
Thank you, Marisol. Thank you very much. And you have my condolences as well as
Thank you.
everyone else that is going through the pain with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.